PM. This is the Eldridge Electric and Water Utility Board, meeting. All in order, roll call please, Gage.
Peterson,
Here.
Gooding,
Present.
Tadevich,
Present.
Hamilton,
Present.
Berkeley.
Here. All right, moving on to number 2, public comment. Anything from Dale?
Here's will do the right thing.
All right. Moving on, number 3, approval of tonight's agenda. Everybody has a chance to look. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Petovich. Second by Hamilton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on, number 4. Approval of utility board minutes from June 17th, 2025. Any corrections needed? Motion to approve.
The only question I had was on that, that Martin bill that looked like it was the same.
Yeah. I emailed Gage last night and it was duplicate.
It was.
And they voided it.
Okay,
Good catch.
thanks.
Anybody else? Motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Peterson, second by Tadevich. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Item number 5, financial administrative. 5A, consideration to approve the bills payable. Anybody have a chance to take a look? Any further explanation needed? Motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion by Petovich. Second by Hamilton. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. 5B, department update. Amanda, do you have anything for us?
Just 2 quick items. Jeff sent out an email to everyone recently. If you didn't get that, let me know. There is some updated legislation for open records, public records and open meetings. Just a slight change for the violations and then the penalties that go with those violations. So if you didn't have a chance to review it, or if you did have questions, let us know. And then we are still working with PFM, giving them our financials to get some guidance from John Burmeister on how much to invest from the water funds based on what projects we're picking up.
I did have one question on the information Jeff emailed. I know we talked about this a long time ago. I think when we were first coming in here. Obviously we all use our personal emails for things like that. Is there any way to get I don't know how many licenses we have with shared IT that we would have something like that, because obviously we have business stuff coming in on our personal emails too, or even personal stuff, like if something would ever happen.
Right.
Is that an option or?
So I can check into it and see if we have available licenses, or if not, what the cost would be, because then that would go to the funds for those boards. The other thing that helps with that is making sure that there is staff and administration copied on those emails so that we can pull all of them and have record. If you have personal emails, we can pull them all so that you don't have to try and go through all of your personal email and hope that you got it all. We'll be able to pull it from our server as long as one of us is copied on it.
I just wasn't for sure if that meant you're gonna pull our whole, say our phones. That's what most of us operate off on and stuff like that, because as I said, we do business on our phones. Besides city business, we have personal stuff that would handle things like that.
So for an email public records request, they wouldn't take your phone. You would have to provide them everything that they asked for. And if they had some reason to believe it was false or could prove that, then that's where a violation would occur. With text messages, you could provide the records from your phone company as well. They won't take your physical device unless they have a reason to, but your texts are definitely public records. Personal emails, they don't come take access over your whole account. It's up to you to provide it to them when it's asked. And so copying someone from the city, if you don't have a city email account, just ensures that we'll be able to track all of the emails that include your personal email that are city related by running it on our server. So that's one of the reasons that we are always adamant about making sure that Jeff or I are copied on all of those emails. Just to protect and to help you guys if one of those comes out, because we do have them where we have to have personal emails searched and hope that we have all of the emails for that request.
Is there one individual in particular that we should just kind of focus on, copy them every time if there's something, as you or Jeff or Sadie or Gage?
Yeah, so typically copy myself or Jeff, depending on what it is. Either one of us doesn't, I mean, we both
Sure.
had the same job duties and purpose for that, so. Just someone from administration so that we can run those, because he and I are the ones that will run those server requests when they have them.
Okay. Anything else? Moving on to 6, electric department, 6A outages. Did, Colin provide you with any updates, Gage, or?
Yep, I've got, a couple, they've had no outages, a couple of blink, as he refers to them, no indication of any issues. Most of them were animal contact that they were able to pin down. For department updates, the crew completed a pole change out at 901 West Donahue. They completed a pole change out at 313 North Sixth Street. They are assisting in the removal of the street lights on the North 4th Avenue and East Leclerc Road traffic signal construction project. And they will be relocating electric infrastructure on 4th Avenue at Ivy Acres due to the replat of part of the subdivision.
Did that include 6B then the department update? Okay, so 6A and 6B covered. Moving on to number 7, 7A, water department, water main breaks.
Not on our system, the 2951 South First Street is LMI trucking down there. They have a fire line that has like 20 brakes on it, they had 2 more brakes on it. So we're getting close to considering having them repair it. So shutting them down and making them repair it, because there's so many brakes on it that at this point, the thing's probably leaking no matter what, so they get 2 more brakes. Other than that, no brakes.
Where is this at?
So 2951 South First Street, it's that trucking company right before you get to Blackhawk Trail.
Like a drop lot there next to the manufacturing building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since I've been here, I think they've had 4 breaks, and then talking to past guys, I think Peterson fixed it, so I was talking to the guys there. Some of the guys on that crew said that they fixed like 15 of them there, and it's all the same one. So it's kind of just getting to the point where.
Was it age related?
Or is it vibration from trucks?
It's probably all of the above. I also think I had heard from somebody else that the guy that owned the place took like reclaimed pipe from somewhere else and used it there. So it was probably bad pipe. So because we have some breaks down there, but nothing like that. So, but I think they've had at least 6 or 7 breaks in the last 5 years.
All right, so we're just continuing to monitor that, and if
Yeah.
continuing to.
It's more.
Then
If more popped up on it, start talking to somebody who's been down there and tell them they need to probably get replacement because it's a water loss for us.
sure.
So
Okay. 7B, water test results, but I had a chance to take a look, looks like everything was negative and, nothing stood out when I looked through them. Any
Yeah,
other comments?
back teas passed, fluoride is good. I did just get. So I think last month we tested UCMR 5s, which is the unregulated contaminant monitoring rules. The EPA sent us a resample kit because of a goof on the labs portion. They said our samples were good, but somehow they quality control on their end went wrong, so we have to resample. So hopefully we can send those back next week.
Okay. They also have any questions on the water test results? Well, okay, so moving on to 7C, discussion and consideration to approve the Grunwald Land Development Water Main request. So I think we had some discussion on this last time. Jeff Martin's provided the additional information, that, you know, there was, a resolution passed by the city on that, added plat, and also the supporting evidence to indicate that the same identical, deal was made with, the 12-inch going east on Lincoln as what Grunwald installed going west. So, I think there was now a, resolution. Is that a resolution or?
There's a development agreement and a resolution to approve the development agreement.
Okay,
And wasn't there, top of my head, I have a different, I don't have the same notebook I had last time. I think there was like, there was a little bit over and what Mr. Grunwald submitted, then the not to exceed.
I think that was the previous, the Wilmer edition.
There,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it was a
Yeah.
different edition, yeah.
okay, so 7C then is just the, consideration to approve, but then there will be, okay, no, below it is the resolution, I see, okay, got it, I'm caught up, no, sorry. 7C, discussion and consideration to approve Grunwald land development water main request. Any other concerns, questions, comments? Motion to approve?
I have a question. So do we decide to move forward? We were gonna pay all of that at once or pay a portion now and then a portion after?
There's been no decision made by the board on how you wanna pay it. If you go,
I think it was to put some of it in the last fiscal year.
To divide
Yeah,
it
we were
into
gonna.
two fiscal years.
divide it into two.
Can that still be done?
Yep, you would do that with, in approving
Okay.
the agreement to, pay that reimbursement.
Okay. So that would be part of the resolution, or it would be part of this?
Cause I don't see the attached agreement unless I'm missing it.
No, that's, the resolution.
It's after all like the water report that's in there.
Yeah, so
It
here's,
depends on if you printed it from the draft or from the final email that was sent out.
what was in the packet? So that would need to be amended then to,
The resolution that's in there is amended, it has been amended to fit the development agreement with Grunwald. And then the last agenda that was sent out by Gage yesterday had the development agreement in it as well. So it just depends on when you printed your agenda off. It wasn't in the draft that was set a couple of days ago. Things get added to it after that, so it would have been that final agenda packet that got sent out. But it's the agreement that was provided at the previous meeting, just amended for the Grunwald development. The amount amended to 43,830. Match that cost.
So do we need to approve the resolution here, the agreement, before we pass the
Because this says,
consideration to approve?
this resolution, and that's where I was confused. If you go down to item 1, it says the attached agreement. Like,
Yep.
where if it's all just
So
considered.
it was in the agenda pack that was sent out yesterday.
Right behind. In the packet.
Did you print it off yesterday?
No, I.
No, he printed these, but I don't
I
have
printed the one
minor.
that you sent yesterday and it's not,
No, so it should be the one that was posted and the one that was sent out. You have it up that you can, maybe you can show them, we can print it out. If you go into, pull it up on the website. You can get that. That's how we print it out. This is the higher one. Which is down. Yeah, so there should be a resolution, then an agreement, and then the meter hydrant resolution, so. You can get a copy of that printed off, but the development agreement is what you would be approving, in item 7C,
Yep,
and you can give direction on how to pay it with that approval, or you can give direction on how to pay it with the approval of the resolution. They're essentially achieving the same goal. The development agreement has all of the terms of the agreement and what's being reimbursed and the terms of the construction that need to be followed. The resolution is approving the amount to reimburse and who has authorization to execute that agreement and sign that resolution.
Okay. So then we can keep the same order then,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
okay.
the documents go together.
Yeah, that's what I have.
You can have that one.
Oh, okay.
This-
Oh, you already,
If this passes, then.
Okay. okay, any other discussion on that?
A motion to approve, and then we go under the guise of half would be paid under this fiscal year and
Well, when we vote on the resolution, he said we could
water to put that in there.
put that in there with splitting the fiscal year.
Okay, then.
I'll print them off for you. They're. We'll have to go into the server and get the packet out of there, because they're not on the website either. It's the exact same agreement as the Wilmar, just updated for Grunwald with the amount from the resolution.
Okay,
And the signature on that too.
okay, so. All right. So 7C, consideration to approve. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Gooding,
Second.
second by Peterson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays, ayes have it, okay. Okay, so then 7D, consideration to approve resolution 2025-11, electric and water approving a development agreement with Grunwald Land, LC for the amount of $43,830 that would be split into two fiscal, to be paid in two fiscal, cycles, evenly. And with that, we would, any other discussion on that?
Nothing.
Okay, and so with that, we'll need a roll call vote.
Perfect. Patterson?
Peterson.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I wasn't sure if you're reminding.
I'm sorry.
I need friendly name.
Peterson,
Yay.
Gooding,
Yay.
Panovich,
Yay.
Hamilton, Bristly.
Aye, okay. Passes, all right, good deal.
And thanks for your patience as we look through that day.
Yeah.
We weren't around at this, that. And I will say that Jeff Martin's did a lot of research
Yeah.
to find all that, so that's, hats off to him for sure.
The only comment I wanna make is, it isn't exactly the way it was explained to me, but that's fine. And life will go on. You know, the way it was explained to me is that the city would bring the water along Lincoln. I should just do the subdivision. But in we never had a plan for along Lincoln. So I don't even know how it got put in. I mean, I know Miller put it in for a crew to come out one day. In 2 or 3 days, they had it all in.
Sure.
And I was happy to help because I had water.
All right, well, this part of it looks like it's behind us, so. Good. 7E, discussion and consideration to approve rate recommendations from PFM Financial Advisors LLC. So we all had the presentation last week. They provided 3 scenarios, scenario 1, 2, and 3. I believe I'm recalling correctly, they recommended scenario one. Was there a preference on what they, okay, maybe, I thought there was a recommendation on that, but anyhow, we've all had a chance to take a look at it. Any other questions?
No, and I think we did talk about that, like, when we had our discussions, like the different scenarios and that, like, fully like, hey, do scenario one, but based on the different surcharges and the way it go up, like, we scenario one looked like the better fit for community and us to forward.
Yeah, so that scenario one was no change to the rate structure. Still is a slight increase.
Yeah.
But it is aligned with what is in place now, what I understand.
Correct.
And we can reevaluate
Yep,
next year.
yep. They'll do an annual analysis now that we've got that foundation built for that rate analysis. John will check in on it every single year as we go through the budget to make sure that everything's still lining up and review recommendations on rate structure as well.
Okay. So. Any further discussion? Anybody has any preference of scenario 1, 2, or 3?
Scenario one,
That's what I think too. Stick with it.
Okay, so motion, do I hear a motion to approve scenario 1?
motion,
Motion by Patovich. Second by Brisley, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, scenario 1 it is. Thank you.
When did that take effect?
Believe their recommendation was for it to be August 1st. But we can provide more notice if you guys want to choose a different effective date.
Well, I saw some of the comments on the electric increase that hit. And I think we need to put something out there, multiple spots, so that people are aware of it.
For enough of the time period.
mm-hmm. It's just gonna go August first, like that's.
And we wait till September.
And does that date?
That's one
be
month.
You'll have
updated
to
on that
approve a
sheet?
resolution with new rates too, so it'll have to go through at least another meeting before it could take.
So August first was pretty unrealistic in actuality to notify people unless they're watching this.
And then the rate increase obviously is a lot smaller percentage than
Than
the
electric.
electric. So the average consumer is gonna see their bill go up maybe $1.40 per billing, so.
Based on some of the comments. I don't think that matters right now.
Yeah. I get it. I mean,
Unfortunately,
yeah, it's everybody, it's impacted across the board. I
Yeah.
mean, Mid-America, us, we all buy from the same grid. We're all tied to the same grid,
I
so.
just don't think people understand or know that. And before being on the board, honestly, I didn't get.
Sure.
So
Well, we probably have some of the rate increase because they're turning the air conditioning on anyway,
and it's been hot.
Mhm.
that too, and then the PCA, what, did it triple or did it? But
It was like 20-some%.
Yeah, it was over 20%, but
Yeah.
we didn't have the luxury of, the surplus that we had in years past
Yeah.
because they switched us over to demand curve, to better distribute across the rest of the United States.
That's what I was
So-
like, people when they've asked me, which they're like, oh, okay. I mean,
Well, we-
it's simple as like, I get it, but
But also, wasn't the plant down in,
We said Walter Scott.
Yes, they were
also
shut down.
Provides us benefits, so we as a nonprofit are still gonna be slightly less. I mean, Mid-America is a for-profit company, and again, we get the benefit of the PPAs that were signed years ago for Louisa and Walter Scott, so.
but they were shut down for what, a couple of months?
They,
Yeah.
For some,
done in that last fiscal year.
so then we don't have any energy that, and that, cause that was
Yes.
brought up on somebody else, well, don't we have energy that we buy, that we get for free or whatever,
Right.
it's supposed to give us a discount. But I don't think, the community didn't know that it was shut down. And then if it's shut down, we don't have anything.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
They just participate in the PPA and the benefits of it,
Yeah.
so it's not generating, that's out of
We're
our
out.
control,
Yeah,
so. But again, being tied to the grid like the rest of the United States, it's, when it impacts one, it impacts us all. And so, you know, I still think we enjoy some of the lowest rates, you know, around. And because I get a Mid-America bill for property in Davenport and it's, I still see, you know, it looks like we're still a little bit less.
Yeah.
So. All right. So moving on, number 7F, consideration to approve resolution 2025-10. The electrical and water establishing rules and fees for temporary hydrant meter rental. So I saw that we had some red line recommended changes to that.
And the signees on this too, when we make this, need to be updated.
Okay, so that was for number 8, so 110.
So the first page is gonna be it amended, the one that has you and Mike listed on there to sign. The second one is gonna be the previous version of it, showing what those amendments are.
I only have the rough draft copy. You have a version where you have,
This is what Gage sent yesterday.
but you're still fine too.
There should be a page right before that.
Oh.
That's the updated version. So you should have 2025-08 and then 2022-08. 2022 is the previous version with red line changes.
Okay, but the resolution that's listed here says 25-10. 25-10. That's on my agenda.
What, Keegan, what would this be for?
So it's certainly our current resolution for hydrant meter checkouts, like when construction and development need it to do work, especially like road work, we'll rent these out. And it's been like $450 for them to rent them out for 2 weeks. I've had some inquiries to use them outside of city limits. And I just look at it as like another means of revenue, so kind of just up the price because I can't charge for water outside of our system, so we just up the price for, they have to be neighboring communities, what I made the stipulation as. But basically, okay, so if somebody in Long Grove needs a hydrant meter, Long Grove does not have hydrant meters to rent out, they could rent one from us, I just wouldn't be able to charge for water. So it's like the same thing where on a 2-week basis, companies and developers can rent hydrant meters and use them as they need them.
And how many requests do you get for it? I'm just curious.
It's more often when there's road work being done, but right now, just developers that need them for here and there projects. So just this year I've had one inquiry.
Okay.
So it might pick up as, especially like if we start having a bigger street project and rather than having tankers go outside of others to get water, we can just have them rent the hydrant meter, they'll grind it to a hydrant.
So I had a question on section 11, according to the red line addition. There was an ad to be used within the Eldridge city limits. Is there a scenario where you wouldn't use a backflow preventer outside the city limits if you were tied to it?
So if it's outside city limits, I can't control people using a backflow preventer or not. So we're basically just renting the hydrant meter out itself. But inside city limits, they would be required to have a backflow preventer.
I think section 12 right below should cover that for other cities.
So this would apply, again, like you said, if it's being used outside of our distribution network.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be connected to our water.
No, it's inside.
Okay, that's one way to know what that scenario would be
Backflow
with
preventer.
having that, because within the community or our source, we would definitely,
We would absolutely require it, yes.
you know. Okay, so again, I see it's marked 2025-08, and on the agenda, it's March 2025-10. Is that an issue?
10 would be the appropriate number. It might just be a typo. We can check with Sadie. She might put 08 because it was 08 on 2022
Okay,
instead of, but it should be, the right number is 2020. 2025-10 would be your next resolution number.
okay, so the agenda is correct then?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion needed on that, this resolution?
Nope.
Roll call vote, please, Gage?
Peterson,
Yeah.
Gooding,
Yay.
Patovich,
Yeah.
Hamilton, Brickman.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to 7G, discussion and consideration to approve a quote from Electric Pump to replace the VFDs for high service motors 1 and 2. I think we had some discussion on that last week or last meeting. And we discussed basically why they need to be replaced. Was there any further investigation on maybe relocating them to?
Yeah, so the input you have for high service one and two includes the relocation into the power room
Okay,
with, they'll also put like a shield because there's an AC unit in there to keep humidity down in the power room. So they'll put a shield over top of the VFDs in case that AC unit ever leaked.
okay,
So that it's included in that, but, on this discussion, we got high service one's motor back like 3 weeks ago, and we've been holding on to it until Northway was done with our pump. We got the pump back yesterday and we installed it. And then we hooked up to the VFD and no power. So VFD one has failed.
okay.
Same thing, phase power loss. So all the contactors and all the relays inside VFD one they're all chewed up. VFD two is still going. It's kind of like the little train that could.
Mhm.
Telling on, so I'm worried that if we ever shut the power down though, that they'd probably fail. So
Okay,
it's like one definitely needs to be replaced. Two might hold on, but it's like one of those cases where we've already replaced two, we have to replace another one. So,
it sounds like they both need to be replaced and relocated, so we're not continuing down this path every 4 or 5 years.
yep,
All right. Anybody else have anything on that? Motion to approve? Motion by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Peterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes? Nice have it. Okay. 7H, discussion and consideration to approve a cam lock connection on the ATS at the treatment plant for a portable generator. So it looks like we've got some further information. I think what LMI provide additional details to their
yeah,
bid.
so I think it was Tri-City that initially had priced us for Amlock connections.
Yeah,
So then you guys, I reached back out to River City to re-quote for those Amlock connections. So now all three companies have quoted for the backup transfer switch with Amlock connections. So it's basically decided between those three who we want to do the work.
There's about a $5,000 difference between LMI and the other.
Mm-hmm.
correct.
I think Tri-City and River Cities were a little more detailed on their scope of work. Which I don't know if it's,
But we've used LMI
yeah,
in the past.
Right, so, I mean, in my opinion, it's necessary to have a redundant backup system that's safe for you guys to operate in the event that the emergency backup generator fails. That if you had to bring in a rental, then you have a means to safely connect it, quickly. Anything else or motion to approve? Motion by Hamilton. For, I guess I'm classified for LMI, Yes.
So I have one question here. So these are two different things, the cam lock and then the transfer switch, right?
No, the manual transfer switch and then the automatic transfer switch that we're gonna get to next.
Yes.
Okay. So
Those
is
are
it,
two separate things. This is just to provide a manual transfer switch. So it's a means, if for some reason the main generator was to fail on us and they had to call for an emergency backup source, that they can quickly connect the cables to a manual transfer switch and be able to engage that source
okay.
in the event of an emergency.
That's a backup to a backup.
Yeah, basically. But because we've had ongoing issues, you know, or questionable coolant results with the generator, we just thought maybe it was necessary to provide a provision.
Yeah, I know we've talked about it quite a bit. Oh, there's some meeting. Does LMI not quote the other portion too? Sorry to skip ahead. I just
Yeah, I didn't see a. quote
know
from
if it's
them.
something that they could all do at once and knock it out.
Or am I?
They
am I
didn't,
missing
they
it?
didn't quote the AATS, no.
Or do they not do that type of work?
I think Tri-City. The Tri-City, Altorfer and River City,
They're the three that quoted the replacement of the ATS.
I could definitely reach out to LMI if we wanted to do an open goal. Like have one company do everything. I know the Altorfer, they had to hire an electrician anyway. So it's kind of like one of those things that they have like a third party buyer and then we have to hire an electrician to
So their quote would just be for them
strictly
supplying, yeah, so,
transfer.
so that's not quite, you know, and all be all for them, so.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, it makes sense if you're gonna do, you know, if we decide to do the ATS along with that,
Yeah.
that the same contractor might give us a better rate to do them both.
Yeah, we can,
And they do it all while they're here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, if you guys want to table it, we can bring it up for the next one. Because they're working right now.
so I would say let's table it and maybe get a quote to include LMI.
yeah.
To do all-
Because I also have questions on some of these ATS quotes coming up as well,
Okay.
so
Okay,
we'll table that one.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to 7I, discussion and consideration to approve the purchase of a replacement auto transfer switch for the water treatment plant generator. So again, getting down to 7J, it appears that the control board has failed on this unit, right?
Yeah, and Altorfer already quoted us just for the control board and it was like just over $4,000.
So they quoted us Alter quoted us $4,166.56 for a part that I looked up the part number. And Kaler has these in stock, multiple suppliers, 3 suppliers have this in stock. Brand new, same part number for the Impact 1500 ATS. One was 1785, the other was 2770, and the other one was 2868. And Kohler's MSRP on this part was 2933. So I just want to make sure we're clear. Alter is asking for a 40% markup over Kohler's MSRP on this same part.
That's probably correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that doesn't sit well with me anyhow.
I mean, why LMI or?
Well, exactly. So another
York City's
contractor
Tri-City,
could source any of these 3 other sources for the part. It's still the brand new part from Kohler.
well, all 3 of those companies have access to Kohler parts like this, they all do that. I mean, LMI would probably be,
Well, everybody's gonna have their brand that
Yeah.
they push. But the service electrical company would service multiple brands and so I just, so there's actually a decision that needs to be made. Either we fix the ATS that's there or we vote to replace it. And then if we vote to replace it, then 7J doesn't come into play. If we're gonna fix it, and this is a suggestion, maybe LMI, if we get them involved with the, looking at the transfer switch, let's ask them if they would be willing to repair it. And what their quotes would be to repair it before we vote on replacing it, because the replacement, Tri-State's at 8,800 and River Cities is at 11,600. And Altifer's at 5,565 plus whatever an electrical contractor is gonna charge us.
Yeah, I guess, so it's something that all three of these can be combined into one, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a wise decision.
Cause that's why I took a bunch of notes before the meeting tonight was, okay, this, you know. And again, River City, Tri-State and Altifer didn't indicate what brand of equipment that they would be supplying us, so. Is it another Kohler unit? Do we want another Kohler unit? Maybe we should look at ASCO or ASCO Emerson or, ABB or Eaton, you know, those are some popular brands. And, you know, the control boards may not be as high priced as the Kohler unit. So I would say let's table these three items. I mean, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah,
In
right now, we're not dead in the water, like if we had to,
You just don't manually,
Altifer came out and they showed us how to manually switch over.
okay, good,
So we can definitely still switch power,
okay,
but the faults we've been having, it's kind of like a crapshoot if we would actually be able to get an auto transfer of power in an emergency situation.
okay, all right.
Well, and I think, you know, if for future, let's just say if one company does it all, then this, you're not calling three different people, let's say,
You're also not coming out on three different things, like we're like, oh my, start this now, and
they
then,
get finger pointing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's best to have one company. We can.
yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of this could be combined and we would see some savings, you know, that could be passed on, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so. 7I, we tabled. 7J, tabled. Pending more information. And then 7K, moving on to discussion and consideration to approve the purchase of the soft start for the 4 wells in the system. I know that was on your wish list at the, you know, earlier in the year. I had a chance to take a look at them. I guess my comments were, it looks like wells 4 and 5, it's a fairly simple task.
Yeah, cause there's already existing soft starts in there, but they're only ramp up.
You know,
There's no ramp down, so when they
Okay.
step down, they just stop.
yeah,
So, the new ones, obviously, they have a ramp up, ramp down, we're gonna get more longevity out of those pumps and motors. I'm not too concerned about well 2, just because that thing's probably getting decommissioned in the next few years.
that's what I was thinking, that was the most expensive, so when I looked at LMI, they wanted 17,000, which was the highest of all the wells.
Yeah.
And that was, and it's probably our lowest producer.
Yeah, and ISP's had some recommendations where we may keep that as a winter well
Okay,
or like a emergency well, just because it still does produce. Like,
Yeah.
it's something where we lose 2 wells and we just need something to push water, we could keep 2 as a reserve. But it's 97 years old and its production has been cut in half since the first it got drilled. So I'm not too concerned about 2. It's kind of the same thing with 3. We could probably put 1 in 3, but I think well 3 is probably another 5-10 years behind getting decommissioned. So it's like one of those things
so
where.
that's another 14,000 for well 3, whereas wells 4 and 5, if they're our best producers and we rely on them the most. And that cost is only it was 4,900 something, 4,000. Yeah,
Right
'cause
under
LP
9,000.
yeah, LMI broke it out at 4,900, so.
Yep.
For each one of those 2, and considerably less than 2 and 3. So,
I mean, you need to look at like. What they say on pump 2, River City's had 13.6,
uh,
LMI had like 17.
That was there's like a power wall in there. They'd have to reconstruct all of the power in there. They'd have to move every single cabinet in there. So a lot more labor intensive for well two, just because they don't have the space. But 4 and 5 already have those cabinets for those. So it's kind of just like a take one out, reconfigure some things and then put a new one back in.
So my thought maybe would be if we want to consider going ahead and move forward with LMI on wells 4 and 5. And then if we want to revisit well 3. Well, then we could maybe approach River Cities because they were $2,000 less than what LMI was. If we wanted to go back and do well 3 in the future.
It's not an immediate need though for a month, right?
No.
Okay,
That's what
it's just easiest to do 4 and 5.
4 and 5 make the most sense, especially because they're our most central wells.
He said 3, 5, 10 years behind.
I think two's probably 5 years and 3's probably 5 to 10 years behind decommission. But I know with ISG and our engineering reports, I think we're looking at a couple new wells in the next decade or so, so.
What's the cost of?
Depends if the infrastructure already exists. If we put one across the street from well two or near well two, it's gonna be 6 figures, probably. I can't ballpark it, but if we can tie onto existing infrastructure, it's gonna cut the cost significantly, because pipe is obviously the biggest portion of it.
Quoted at 1.5 million right now.
For just one,
Well,
is that
Yeah, that's
new everything, new,
Seven
new
figures.
that's a
whole
piping?
new well site to get it up and running, transmission. And then,
I feel like,
That's really good.
was that from,
that was from ISG and PFM. So from ISG.
get your buckets ready and get.
Proposal for capital projects and PFM's projection for increase usually goes up 2 or 3% each year.
If we keep building houses, we're gonna need it sooner or later.
Yeah, they're gonna have to slow down.
Okay.
Take a vacation.
One vacation every day.
Any other discussion on this? Is there any interest in moving forward with 4 and 5 or wait on all of them or?
I say move ahead with 4 and 5.
4 and 5 sounds good. And then we can reevaluate.
Because these aren't necessary the others right now. So
No,
I think,
So 4 and 5, you get them up top notch, you're good, right?
we should get the lifespan should last. a little
Longevity.
longer.
So there was just a hard stop on that, is
It's
it?
just stuff.
yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is real hard on the impellers and
Mhm.
the motor, so then we're seeing more motor maintenance.
Mhm.
Granted, we have maintenance schedules, but still we can, instead of having to do like a new, like a total rebuild, we can just replace certain parts that need them.
Yep. All right. Motion for.
Motion to approve purchase for self-starts for wells 4 and 5. Motion by Peterson,
Second,
second by Patovich. All in favor, say aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Nays? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on, 7L, consideration to approve replacement cost for an 8-inch valve at North Fourth Avenue and East LeClaire Road. And this is as a result of the new traffic light that's going in.
So they replaced a hydrant on Fourth Avenue Claire. They moved it back due to the new sidewalk being put in. They asked if I would turn valves down to help relieve pressure, so when they replaced that valve, or they replaced the hydrant, it would blow the valve off. They thought that it was a lock fitting rather than a mechanical joint. It ended up being a mechanical joint, but during the operation of this valve that's in question, the nut broke off the top of it when we were trying to turn it. So it's just, it's open, so it's a flowing valve, but I can't shut it or open it if I wanted to. So it needs to be replaced, just because it's broken.
Now, is this in the part of the right of way of the work that's being performed? I know we got that map. So I guess. So this, the valve obviously wasn't anticipated being bad until you try to operate it. So I get the valve is, definitely needs to be replaced. But some of this, like pavement removal, I mean, if this is part of the driveway that's already been dug up.
It's additional work on top of what was already.
This is what's needed outside of what was for the original intersection project. This is additional work that will need to be done to replace that valve. So this is all, charges that will be on the water fund.
Okay, so this change order would be applicable just to the water funds.
Correct.
And the rest of the contract price is, that's part of whatever. this-
That's already approved by the city, yeah.
You say no.
It is what it is, and
Well, then, once they get done with the project, you'll have to dig it up and pay probably 5 times that to fix it.
You gotta tell them, like, we'll pay 94. 76.
was there any state money grant for this?
Not with this project, no.
Okay,
No.
let's say if we could push something onto the grant, it never seems like we get benefits of the grants,
It's not looking good.
It's what it is.
Could be worse, Keegan could have went through Z, stop it in.
My bad.
Take a little WD with you next time, we give a couple.
We only got like 8 letters left
George out.
through January.
If I was skinny enough to get down there, I would have given it a ride.
Alright.
I got that.
Questions on it?
I mean,
Well,
better fix it now. Motion by
yeah, motion by Peterson,
Second,
second by Patovich, all in favor say aye. Aye.
okay.
Nays? Let's have it. Alright. Yeah, and I agree, why have a new intersection, then you gotta dig things up again and make a mess, so.
How it is tomorrow.
I just would think that
Right,
might could
thank
fall
you.
under the street. I mean, you're no, I don't know, I guess I don't know enough about it to.
The street portion of it stopped the panel before, and this is a panel out, it's one more panel out into Leclerc. So it's outside the original scope of work.
Gotcha.
You could still be like, we'll approve it, but like, hey, would you guys drop this down like $2 grand?
Never hurts to ask.
I'm not kidding.
I would, like, so.
You know, we've led you the right way before on some of these things. You got yourself a new toolbox that will turn in. Seriously.
I'll put a bug in their ear. Like, you guys are already working on it.
Yeah, I mean, hauling away the material, it's already, you're already hauling away the material and you're
Yeah.
asking for $1,000 for that.
Who's the contractor?
Balance
Balance.
construction.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but they go to Amico a lot.
I have no idea where,
They're always there, all the work. What are you guys doing over there? We gotta have these streets ready for elders. I'll Google it.
Alright, moving on, 7M, discussion and consideration to approve the use of PVC pipe in the distribution system. We've talked about this in the past. We were gonna do a tour, it didn't quite develop, I guess, but,
Jay Regal has interested me at this point.
yeah.
I've tried to contact him twice since, the first time we scheduled a tour of them, and they just don't respond. So I'm kind of thinking it's not something that they wanted to do.
Well, darn it. Alright,
Still
well,
trying.
they would benefit. Anyhow, is there any more discussion?
I know
On
I
this?
sent you guys a lot of information.
You did, you did.
There's a lot of good talking points on each of one of those. I guess packets. The biggest ones that I took away, because I've really taken a deep dive into this and trying to get this approved here, because I think it's gonna benefit elders hugely. But so a big thing for us right now is nitrites in some of the portion of our system. PVC is highly resistant to biofilm, so we start seeing a decrease in some of the nitrites in some of our system. Everyone rants and raves about how easy PVC is to work with. Instead of having a excavator around to lift pipe around, you can lift a stick of pipe with it's just two guys, and it's easier to work within the hole, it's easier to cut, you don't have to have a special wet saw or anything like that. In the when performance matters document, if you guys ever get back to it, statistically, there's less breaks every year on plastic. Virtually every city that I've talked to that's been working with plastic or has plastic going in, they said all the breaks that they've experienced were all due to human error. They haven't had one naturally break.
And a little bit flexible when everything gets cold, it expands.
that was-
cracks, and-
It's more flexible with shifting soils, so there's a little more give, it's not so rigid. Just some other ones, a big one for us too is the material is more cost effective. I mean, we can do a project for a third of the cost, that's to ductile, even though, yeah, ductile has more tensile strength, it's a little more rigid, but I think PVC, for the pressure that we have, it's more than able to maintain the pressure that we have, because our system usually sits around 55 PSI, and most C900 can hold under 300 PSI. Extremely corrosion resistant, basically non-existent. Right now, we have corrosive soil that's eating our ductile, so unless contractors and developers properly bag, it's in our code now that ductile has to be bagged, but unless you have the installer properly doing that, you're kind of, I mean, the corrosion's gonna get in there anyway.
I mean, this may be a dumb question.
Yeah.
I guess I look at this PVC pipe chain versus the old stuff we've had sitting there, like heavy plastic, you know, how is that not gonna deteriorate like longevity wise?
So,
Versus what, yeah, it's easier to use and like easier to repair and stuff like that. But I just think like with all the different factors, and then you look at our, and I don't know how that differentiates, like look at the soils that things are built on farmland with all the chemicals and.
So that's another one, is in the, there's a pipe longevity document that I sent you, and they talk about that a lot in there. I think it's like a 60-page document. But they do talk about, there's no chemical leaching, unless there's heat involved. And then also the longevity, they said that they have pipe that they dug up that is 60 years old, and they said it's gonna live in excess of 100 years. So currently, right now, the average for ductile and cast iron in the United States is like 47 years for ductile and cast, and then PVC is twice that,
The average lifespan or
the average
average?
lifespan.
I mean, I did a little bit of research on this and I went to DIPRA.org and I found pretty much the opposite stuff
So-
that the PVC people are pushing.
Right, and we've had DIPRA representatives down here when we first found out that we had corrosive soil, and they are the ones that ultimately led to us requiring developers and contractors to bag new water main being put in. And that's where it comes into play, where you're relying on the developers and contractors and the installers to properly bag that water main for it to actually get the benefit from being bagged. Whereas if I just put a piece of PVC pipe in the ground, I don't have to really rely on proper installation.
If they don't properly install it though, is there any recourse that we can go back on them?
We cannot approve it. So before they bury it, I'm supposed to inspect it. And if it's not properly bagged, I can tell them I won't approve it until they properly bag it.
Okay,
So we can definitely still go with the course of bagging it.
right.
But then,
Because the question that I have with the C900, you still have cast iron joints,
so you do it, it'd be ductile.
right, or ductile
Yeah.
joints, but wouldn't the ductile joints still have to be bagged? To prevent those joints from corroding?
Yes, and I think I've read both where with plastic in the ground, I guess, yeah, the corrosion would start attacking those fittings more often. You can't get plastic fittings. I think all valves are gonna have to be ductile. But you can get plastic fittings, but they're like 3 times the cost of ductile
Yeah.
fittings.
Cause I know there's like. Davenport just did it, secure in place piping. It's a company that comes in and they put it down through, and you can do it for sewers or potable water. And it like creates this heat steam, and it lines the current piping with another pipe. Like it's
So they,
kind of a cool
They run it through the old.
Yeah, yeah. So they go down and, camera it,
Sure.
see where your stuff is, and then it does a mechanical. Like they, how many linear feet you have of it and stuff. And then if there's like a valve, or, a joint, it drills it once it's in. And it's got a whole setup for it and stuff, which is kind of cool. So
It
it
would
kind
just be
of,
for the interior surface of the pipe
Yeah.
though, so any corrosion exterior wise would
Yeah.
still.
but it's relines it and stuff, and it reinforces it. And it expands the life cycle of what you already have, so that you don't have to do digging stuff up. I don't know, I mean, Davenport just did it.
So when did they start using ductile iron instead of just regular iron? Because ductile's a lot tougher than
Yeah.
regular iron was.
Ask was definitely more prevalent, and then I think ductiles. I can't tell you when ductile actually started getting introduced in
Probably about
distribution.
20 years ago.
Well, and they just changed it, Iowa just changed too, from, what was it, 151 to 57? Is that right? Or am I throwing those numbers up,
For the classification.
classifications of ductile,
It's 52,
or
right?
52,
I think it
yeah.
used to be 350,
or that's what it was, 350.
which is just like the thickness of the
Yeah.
wall. So class 52 is a thicker wall.
Mhm. So they increased it, I think, because of corrosion and stuff. Is my understanding from reading some things of why they did it.
And that was the ductile that they've increased?
Yeah. You can't use 350 for water mains and,
So the industry standard right now for AWA is 50 to class 52.
yeah.
And what's your timeline? That you would like?
I'm not looking at full system replacement. I'm just looking at new developments would be able to use PVC. And then as system replacement came along, we could use PVC on system replacement. So I started kind of putting together, I have a water main project where I lay out like the most breaks in certain areas. So currently right now, like 7th, 8th and 9th Street, or North 7th, 8th and 9th Street have the most breaks in the city. I think just on 9th Street, I think there's like 8 breaks.
Do we know the age of that and,
I think it's cast.
okay, which would make sense why it would be more corrosive free,
Yeah.
susceptible to corrosion than what we currently have in place.
And didn't you mention other communities have switched over to PVC?
Yeah, so, Tipton's going strictly to PVC. Walcott's going strictly to PVC, Wilton's going to PVC. North Liberty is 99% PVC. Iowa City's going to PVC. You still have to use ductile in some areas. So we kind of be mirroring some of those municipalities. Especially like I was talking to Iowa City, I think it's, well, any of those ones, anywhere, 4-inch to 16-inch, they go plastic. Anything beyond 16-inch, they go back to ductile, which we don't have anything beyond 16 right now, so we would have no reason to go. But then typically around like gas stations and other places that have underground storage of chemicals, we switch back to ductile. I think in most like intersections, I think they switch to ductile.
So right there with that, what you just said, if they're switching back to ductile around chemicals, which cause corrosion, or intersections where there's movement, right?
Yeah,
I mean, to me, that kind of sets off an alarm. Why would they do that? And I'm not just trying to gain as much information because this isn't, I'm out of my element here, so. What do you think, Dale? What's your opinion on it?
You just like put PVC in Long Grove, that's in. But it's still. So first edition was in 99. Haven't had a break yet. But that's only 20 years old.
we have 20-year ductile that has breaks in it. On Black Hawk Trail. And it's corrosion.
Gotcha.
Cause it's not breaks, it's blowouts. And some of the blowouts down there, we've actually right in front of the church on Blackhawk Trail, Scott Road. There's 2 breaks, and each of those breaks were like softball side blowouts.
Have we tested the soil or like why is it?
That's when we had Dipra come in, because we were trying to figure out why 15, at the time, it was 15-year-old ductile, we were trying to figure out why it had blowouts already.
Mhm.
And some people went right to manufacturing, but
Yeah.
then we had Dipra come in, we sent them soil samples from 4 breaks down south.
Mhm.
And then that's when they came and did a presentation, and they said our red brown clay soil is highly corrosive towards metals.
Did we send in any of that pipe for strength test or chemical?
We never got the
Analysis.
section out of it.
So when they do those soil testings, which a lot of, whatever it may be, soil or chemical type testings, when you're doing things, are they doing it? Obviously, Black Hawk Trails has those other housing districts. Are they taking samples from around those areas too? Or only that area?
So I can go back and get I think I still have the presentation that Dipper gave us and our soil sample results. But I think it was like our 6 most recent breaks. And 4 of them were down south, and I think 2 of them, there's one on Oak Street, I think, and then there's one maybe on Donovan. But we sent those ones, and it's basically all the same red, brown clay that was carrying conductivity towards the main. But I can pull that, from.
But none of that was obviously bagged.
No.
Cause that wasn't a requirement back then either,
No, it's not,
and now it would be,
yes,
correct?
which that'd be in the last 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah,
And the PVC doesn't require any type of bag or anything like that?
It requires,
On the joints maybe?
yeah, if anything.
my only fear is the longevity of everything. If it's done correctly, bagged and that kind of thing, my understanding is that ductile iron should last 70 to 100 years. In 70 to 100 years, a lot of us aren't gonna be here, you know, so the question is, who's gonna be paying for stuff, like, if it doesn't, you know, the ultimate end cost is gonna be on the people of Everett. So
Yeah.
if we make a mistake at this, the citizens are gonna end up paying the price for it, one way or the other. So I just wanna make sure that we all have enough information and know what we're gonna be voting on.
If Dale wants to be our PVC guinea pig in Eldridge.
Like, there's,
You mean?
So I mean, if cost wise, if you're looking at, you know, using ductiles 100%, where would we come in at PVC wise, you think?
so. I think, so if I did a replacement from LeClaire to Donahue Street on 9th Street, I think it's roughly like 660 feet. I think it was like, to do it in PVC was like $21,000, but to do it in ductile, it was like $51,000.
So it's more than double.
And it's easier to do these repairs once you have the initial, like, change out of it.
It's easier to work with. So another big draw for it is like you lose that corrosivity on the inside of your pipe too. So the smoothness of your pipe on the inside stays there for the longevity of the pipe. So then it's less strain on our pumps. It's easier to get water. Like we have consistency of flow.
See, I think that's different of the opposite too. It's harder on the equipment, pressure wise. That's what I'm getting at. There's,
Yeah.
you know, they're both saying different things and they don't jive, you know. Well, I understand they're trying to sell different types of
Other
pipes.
competing
so.
entities.
Well, maybe they're, I don't know, some of these, you know, you're hearing some things. You are, and the concerns, obviously Dale put this in Long Grove in one of his editions 20 years ago that. You know, some of the guys that work down there, like, okay,
Does held up
Just-
longer than what Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, just-
Street.
kind of comparing those, like, hey, what kind of repairs do you have versus, you know, Dale hasn't had anything or that type of stuff. Just as a comparison,
Yeah, and I think, another one of the documents I sent was the Calgary report or the Calgary study, which was in Canada. They did so much PVC replacement and then they tracked their old infrastructure that was ductile and then they kept track of like their PVC. And it was like in decades time period, they had like, they averaged like 30 breaks on their ductile and they averaged less than 1 break on their plastic. And but this is quite a long period of time. And I think the same thing was in Des Moines. I think I sent you guys like a Des Moines. Des Moines moving over to PVC, and I think they said the same thing where their older infrastructure that was ductile and cast, they were seeing so many dozens of breaks on their ductile and cast, but as soon as they switched to plastic, they had less than 1.
But is that because this infrastructure that's already in place is just that old? That you are seeing an uptick in it? I mean, we don't really probably have any studies or anybody to give that information, what happened? Say some of it's been in there for 30 years. Like to see, do you? You know what I mean?
For
Like,
plastic,
no, for like our current. What we currently have in there,
Ducked up.
the ductile, say, let's just say you did it on Pinehurst 30 years ago.
I would think, so I talked to Dan Klontz, and I think they did I think it was like 7th, 8th, and 9th Street got replaced in like 1978. And so since 1978, I think over there, I think there's like 19 breaks. So in 50 years, there's been 19 breaks.
But they didn't have
It's not bad or anything.
it wasn't bagged.
It was a ductile back then, you know,
It was cast, wasn't it?
I think it was cast.
yeah,
They put
but
back-
now, ductile's a lot, ductile's pretty tough stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess for me, because I'm more of a numbers person, like, again, this isn't my wheelhouse. I get this concept, like, number wise, for me, it's just kind of seeing. Statistically wise and the way things, you know, like you said there, that was 1978, this has been on those streets.
So when you yourself have to do a main, you can tell the difference in between ductile and cast, correct?
yeah, the cast has significantly more corrosion on it
Yeah.
than the ductile does. Like,
And have you had very many ductile repairs? That is kind of what I'm going at.
less than cast.
But it ain't been around as long as cast, so.
Right.
So like Abby said, I mean, we wanna make sure this is a long-term solution and not something that's gonna blow up and,
Yeah.
and be an issue, say, 40, 50, 60, 70 years from now. But I'm not sure, is there any more information that, well, I mean, you've sent out a lot of information on it. And there's been, you know, discussion in the past on this. Is there anything else, Abby, that you would like to see that hasn't been sent to us? Is there?
I know that like with the PVC, you have to do like a guide wire, you know, for finding it, because otherwise you're just gonna be catching a joint here and there.
It's like a gas line.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like a locate line,
And we do tracer wire with
Yeah.
ductile.
yeah.
You do the same thing with ductile.
We already require
Yeah.
tracer wire for everything.
It's not where it's easier to find. Nobody wants to hit anything.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like,
Like a gas line, you gotta.
Yeah, you gotta have something. the only other thing is like storage of it, where, I mean, from my research, exposure to extreme heat and extreme cold and UV can deteriorate the PVC over time. We're restoring this.
So we have the luxury of some distributors being really close to us and they have an abundance of inventory. So we did one of those things where like as needed basis.
Are they storing it inside though?
So I drove by JM Eagle's plant yesterday, and they don't have pipe inside.
That's like. When water doesn't, utility doesn't, I don't think anybody does like like warehouse storage for it.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much turnover that it's not sitting outside for long periods of time to get that exposure.
Biggest thing is make sure you rotate your stock.
That was my next
Right.
question too, like how long is this stuff, you know? How long has this been sitting on the shelf?
Right.
Date.
I'm sure it's date stamped
Yeah,
somewhere.
there's.
Because I mean, you can leave ductile out. You know, like that's my thing, it's like you can leave ductile sitting here and install it, you know.
which we have, there's ductile back on our loading dock
Mhm.
and the outside of it is rusted.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean nothing.
But then if I had pipe sitting there, it might get that like crusty plastic look, but I don't think it did anything.
like a chalky. I don't know, I just don't, I mean,
Well, I guess, back to your, I just thought about this, if you're getting salt and calcium chloride leaching through the soil around roads, I can see why that would cause additional corrosion too. All
Yeah.
vehicles and.
I mean, I'm obviously more than willing to keep researching and giving you guys information, like, I don't need like a concrete yes or no. I would love that. And you guys obviously have the email from Ray and Jeff that they were backing PVC pipe. I think I included ISG's recommendation for PVC pipe, and they have other municipalities that are switching over that would be willing to have discussions as well.
That's what I was asking, if there's any more information anybody wants that hasn't been presented.
And see,
Yeah,
these-
definitely.
These companies each sell different, does any of them sell both brands or, both types?
So that was the weird thing talking to, like, so Windwater has, like, Jam Eagle won't sell to Windwater.
They
Because they're not buying semi loads of it at a time. So Jam Eagle's one of I think they're the largest North American distributor of plastic pipe. So they're selling to like New York City and California, all kinds of bigger municipalities. So Windwater, I forget who their PVC partner is, but then I think Utility has a little bit more access to some other pipe.
I mean, is it a thing where like obviously there's not a lot of areas around here that are doing it. So you teamed up with Long Grove if we went down that route. Or Parkview.
And bought big fold pipe. I mean, if we had, I guess for us though,
Capital.
It wouldn't really need necessarily, the city would necessarily need to stock more than what's needed for repairs, right?
Well, yeah.
Because remember the builders,
should be
Yeah.
the builder.
yeah,
Yeah,
right,
this is my, like, obviously, I'm obviously pro growth and, expansion of the city for a number of reasons, but the cost analysis to me, it looks great for developers. But if the city's on the hook for the repairs in 20 years or 30 years on something, that's where I kind of, because by then the developers have cut tail and got their money and ran. So, no offense, no.
I agree, I agree. But at the same token, looking at Long Grove, that's
20
25
years,
years old.
yeah.
And we have had no breaks.
Mhm. I guess my thing too is like, I know that vibration, it's like near trains, things like that, like, there's a few things that I just question for locations and stuff where it's not as favorable.
So if you bring up vibration, so we're on a fault line. And then, if that would ever happen, we've had it shake here from a 5.0 from Oklahoma, or if it was even bigger and came that long. Like, how does something like that, you brought up that vibration.
there is a story, again, one of the documents from California, they did have an earthquake. And of all the pipe in their system, the plastic all survived, the ductile did not,
Random question.
right? No,
I don't know, I mean, that's just,
Question.
and that's not the research, that's not the stuff that I found, so I don't know, like, and everything is different in different areas, and it depends on how it's laid, embedded, and installed too. And they sell it to everything, and both sides are trying to sell a product.
Exactly.
It's just an expensive decision.
There a warranty on it?
You have a contractor's warranty for, I think it's 4 years now on average.
So I'm just talking on the pipe, so.
like the manufacturer warranty.
Yeah,
So say like when you did your Long Grove one, did they give you any kind of? When you installed all that Long Grove, was there any manufacturer warranties or?
No, we'll have our contractor's warranty for 4 years,
Yeah.
which is under.
Mhm.
I can look into a manufacturing multi.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean,
They give you like a 10-year guarantee of the pipe.
You know, we like to ask you the hard
Yeah,
questions.
I
We
know,
respect
do what they
it.
need to know.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I'm here for.
they used to build trucks out of more steel and now they build trucks out of a lot of plastic and they just don't last as long.
And then again, appreciate all the information that you have supplied on it. Just, if there's anything else anybody wants to see to make an informed decision, it's.
I mean, are we ready to make an informed decision or does everybody
I
need more
know.
time? I mean,
I don't feel like I'm ready to make a decision,
I agree.
I'd like to take a look.
right?
okay,
I mean, I'm leaning towards the PVC just because of all the information that's been presented and that's why I was just thinking if there's anything else out there that, that can be shared, then obviously I'll take a look at it, but, I mean, I think I've seen enough and heard enough that, I mean, PVC is probably the way to go on this. And the only other thing that came to mind was, do we size limit, what can be PVC, what can be ductile? So if we're talking mains, you know, along thoroughfares, you know, where say it's 8 inches or above.
Did you say before, insert
Yes,
areas
I-
of 16?
4 to 16 would be PVC, anything over 16 would be back to.
No, 16 is our largest anyhow, right? So is
basically,
there any benefit to lower that down to say 8 inch?
I mean, I would be willing to go to like anything 6 to 12, that's PVC. And then 16 and above could be. Because the pressure strength of PVC is more than capable of maintaining what we have in our system, even down south. I think we peaked down south at 90 PSI. And I mean, obviously ductile can maintain that, but PVC can also maintain that 90
Yes,
PSI.
our main artery is 16 inch all the way down First Street.
From Iowa to Blackhawk Trail.
Yeah. Okay, so from Black Hawk Trail then it reduces, right?
It's back to 12.
12, okay.
So we have 16, it's not the main, like our biggest main is 12 mostly, but just that one feeder to the south is 16. Which I think it might go to Trails Road, because I think that 16 is there to go to. Because the waste plant's our biggest user.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, in the future, what we're looking at is, you know, perhaps a secondary option in the south end of town, whether it be administered by the community or we source water so we can complete a redundant system. I know that's coming up for us in the future. So, you know, we'll have that coming up, you know, in the very near future to discuss. So, I mean, with a redundant system, I think that I've seen enough. Again, if anybody else has more information that they want to dig in,
were we still discussing things with Iowa American to have a connection?
there's another meeting coming up, with the city on that, because of the business park down there.
Right.
So
Cause I didn't know what their requirements are too.
there's 3 options basically that's coming up to be discussed, later this month that, is one that they provide an interconnection supply, just like Mid-America does to us for electric. Or there's 2 that we grant partial operations to Iowa American Water, Iowa American Water. Or, you know, 3 is they want to present an idea and take over the whole thing and so, yeah, that's the 3 options that, they present. I mean, right now, I'm more interested in looking at what they can do for us as an interconnection supply.
Cause that's what I thought.
And then that's it. They're just a supply at wherever that is along Slopertown Road.
Right.
And, but also I want to investigate if there's, you know, would it be, in our best interest to consider a second treatment plant down along where the new city facilities will eventually be located on that land. Closer to the south end of town, and so if we built a second facility, then we could ultimately we could keep everything in-house without Iowa American Water, and then have a redundant loop system, you know, and still be able to meet the capacity requirements of the industry that's coming at the south end.
Just a quick question on that. So Davenport is PVC approved or not approved?
My understanding is Iowa American does not, in Davenport or Bettendorf approve C900.
Davenport and Bedford do not allow plastic.
Yeah. It's fine for, they use it, like a lot of, originally was sewer.
Yeah.
And then they started into potable water with it. But there's certain communities that absolutely do not allow it. And I don't know, or, I mean, I haven't heard a reason. I did ask. I did call Iowa American, if, you know, if it's a Davenport, a Bettendorf thing, or if it's a their thing. Not sure.
It's Davenport and Bettendorf. Cause I.
What city ordinance?
Yeah, cause I talked to their lady that did their lead and copper, and then I asked them about PVC. And they said that was just their preference, was to use ductile. So I think Iowa American and I think Illinois American allows, like the municipalities that they work with in Illinois all allow plastic, like Moline's all going to plastic, Rock Island's going to plastic, Andalusia, Vineland, they're all going to plastic, and that's all Illinois American. So if it's all the same parent company, they are allowing plastic in the municipalities that want it.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure of who was making those decisions.
Yeah, I know we work closely with Davenport and Bettendorf on other municipality matters, but yeah, they definitely don't allow plastic. But then we have a lot of smaller communities around us that are going strictly to plastic.
And my question is, are they going strictly to plastic because it is a cost-effective measure? Versus, you know, you have more industry and kind of more funds and some larger places to continue with the DID.
Talking to North Liberty and Iowa City, I think they treat it as just as reliable as ductile, especially North Liberty, where they're trying to get to 100% plastic in their system. And they've said that since they've introduced plastic, which I think they're going on a couple of decades of having plastic, they've only ever had 2 breaks, and they were due to human error.
So the other thing to consider too, though, is the industrial section of the community down south is per ISG in their estimation, we may need a capacity in excess of 11 million gallons a day. So, you know, how we get there is one thing, but then we also need the infrastructure to be able to deliver that. So, you know, that's quite a steep hike from the up to 1.1 or 1.3 million gallons that it will
10 times what we do right now.
Yeah, so how is that gonna impact that infrastructure development?
I know plastic would make the infrastructure a lot more cost effective. I think the plant is gonna be a multi-million-dollar project no matter what.
But yeah, to be able to deliver that capacity is.
What's the PSI on that then? Because that's a lot
In
more.
that industrial area down there.
Yeah, or what could it be?
Currently
Like
down
when they
there,
shut it down or that, you know,
Yeah.
because like at night. When buildings in downtown Des Moines are shut down, when your PSI goes up. You know,
yeah,
because you don't have flowing usage.
You probably have to have bigger than 16 for that anyway, but yeah, 16 inches.
You could do up at 12.
well, it does move a lot of water.
Yeah,
8 moves a lot of water.
I think most of it's 12. I mean, some of the hotel developments, I think has been 12. We've,
But I think included any infrastructure down south, I think it would include another water tower for storage, and those act as pressure relief.
right,
So that would probably mitigate any portion of pressure spikes, would probably get the tank would act as a pressure relief. Which, I mean, our towers now kind of act as pressure relief. You can tell when we close towers down for maintenance, you can see that little spike.
I'm gonna look at a few more things personally, but that's up to everybody else.
Well, then let's table it for one more session and we don't have to make a decision tonight, we can look at it next time. Cause it's a lot to consider, but I mean, yeah. Anyhow, I don't want anybody to have to think that we have to rush this, so.
We know that's not our game here.
It's definitely not mine. I just like to pack it all in.
I mean, Keegan should have any more updates.
Well, that's what we're moving on to 7-9 or 7N.
They should be quick.
7N is department updates. Keegan, anything to add?
Yeah, our HVAC is fully operational. We've really cut back on the sweating that's going on in there. It's freezing in there, but we've cut back on the sweating. Last month we ordered a new GPS iPad. The one that we were using for GPS is old and broken and the screen was shattered. It wouldn't hold the charge. So between Colin and I, we ordered a new one that's fully operational. We're still working on handing out lead and copper notifications. We've been getting a better response doing door hangers. There's still a few hundred to go.
There was some clarification too with some of the social media. Some people are like, oh, I didn't know that. 'Cause
Yeah.
they can read it.
We added an additional information packet to the first notice, because I think the first notice people thought we were asking them to test their water, which we left it as an option that they thought they had lead, they can test their water. So actually our lab, QC Analytical, called us a few times saying that people were calling about testing their water. So we added a different notification to the packet that basically laid out, like, we just want to know what your service is made of. We're not requiring you to test your water. So response has been good. We're slowly moving those out, but we have until October to get all of them handed out. And then we have until 2027 to get like our inventory fully updated. So and I talked to the DNR about it already. They said don't resubmit anything, just wait until 2027 to get as much as your inventory updated. So 2027 is when we'll like really hammer home getting our inventory put together. Since both operators, so Bryson passed his grade 1 distribution, so he's a full grade 1 operator. Now I have those guys alternating. One guy's doing field work and another guy's operating the plant, so they're alternating. So everybody's doing something. We're not just all hanging around, just watching water move around. I updated you already about the North Fourth Avenue East Sinclair hydrant that got replaced last week. It went good, took an hour. Didn't even have to actually shut down water because the pressure was low enough. And then the EPA, we had to do the resample. Everything's going good.
Right.
I think it's worth mentioning again, though, that Eldridge was ahead of the curve in banning and stopping lead services.
1977,
Yes, which in Iowa, I think it was what, 79 that they changed that,
86.
80 something,
It was
80 something, yeah, okay.
So kudos to the board, 1977.
Yeah.
about 10 years ahead.
Yeah, so likely nobody has a lead service line.
I don't remember if I mentioned the story last meeting, but at John Deere Harvester Works, I guess there was a little water competition and some guy from Moline said that they had like top 5 water in the nation. So everybody there, I think there was like 13 cities that submitted their water for this little in-house water competition. I think one of the Kilberg twins took Eldridge water in and we won.
Oh,
Nice.
And Moline got like third to last. So we won the
Well, but the
John Deere
might
water.
be one of the top 5.
They might.
Third.
I mean, we kind of need that to be on like some post or something.
there's some kind of.
Get everybody
billboard,
out.
Yeah,
And
can we get those numbers?
the John Deere water quality test, Eldridge won.
Good.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Keegan.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, moving on to number 8. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Pete Badovich, second by Peterson, all in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
What did you call us, Gabe?